Radhe Radhe, Dandavat Pranam. Welcome to Shri Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Mandir, Shri Vrindavan Dham. Srila Gurudev ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Rupanuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Patit Pavan Shri Nityananda Prabhu ki jai, Prem Purushottam Shachirandana Gaura Hari ki jai, Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai, Radha Ramana Ju ki jai, Giriraj Mahārāja ki jai, Harinam Sankirtana ki jai, Hare Krishna Mahamantra ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. So, Dandavat Pranam all Vaishnavas. Let me just see if we
are live and Jiva Pavana Prabhu has posted.
Jiva Pavana Prabhu is always on the ball. Can you back that up a little bit so that we'll be able to see Mridanga? Just a little bit.
Is that too far?
I don't know.
Oops.
Dandavat Pranam.
Is that good?
I hope so. Let me see. Ooh, perspective.
Good? Okay.
Oh. All right, good. Can you see Srimati Radhika here?
Yeah.
Okay. So we are going to begin with Mangalachara. That is the auspicious invocation, calling on the grace, the mercy, the presence, the blessings, the sidelong glances of our Gurudev, of our Srila Prabhupada, of our Rupanuga Guru Varga, of Patit Pavan and Nityananda Prabhu and Shachinandan Gaura Hari, going all the way back to the original Guru, who is Krishna, and his Guru of Prem, Srimati Radhika. Radhikar Prema Guru Ami Shishya Nata. She makes him dance various novel dances. So that starts on page 1 in Shri Gauriya Giti Guccha. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam. Dandavat Pranam. Radhe Radhe. Dandavat. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam. Shri Guru Vaishnava Shri Rupam Sagra Jatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savadhutam Arjana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Pada Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitanscha Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Namo Vishnupadaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad Bhaktivedānta Nārāyaṇa Namine Shri Krishna Lila Katane Sudaksham Audarya Madhurya Gunaischa Yuktam Varam Varinyam Purusham Mahantam Nārāyaṇam Kamshirashan Namami Tridandinam Bhakta Shiromaniccha Shri Krishna Pada Chaitanya Leela Sar Saram Narayanam Kamsahatam Prapadye Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedānta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Namo Vishnupadaya Gauravnesthaya Bhutale Shri Śrīmad Bhakti Pragyana Keshava Niti Namine भक्तिमर्त्यचरित्राय स्वश्रितानां च पाणिने जीवदूते सदरताय श्रीनाम प्रेमदायिने नमः विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिसिद्धान्त सरस्वती नामिने श्रीवर्षभानवी देवी दयिताय कृपाभये कृष्णसम्बन्धविज्ञानोदयिने ब्रह्मवे नमः माधुर्योज्ज्वलप्रेमाढ्य श्रीरूपानुगभक्तिदा श्रीगौरकरुणाशक्ति विग्रहाय नमोऽस्तुते नमस्ते गौरवाणी श्रीमूर्तये दिनतारिणे रूपानुगम्यरुद्धापं सिद्धान्तध्वन्तहारिणे नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्यमूर्तये विप्रलम्हारसम्बोधे पदं भुञ्जायते नमः नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्दनामिने गौरशक्तिस्वरूपाय रूपानुगपराय गौराविर्भावभूमेस्त्वं निर्दिष्टः सजनप्रिय वैष्णवः सर्वभौम श्रीजगन्नाथाय ते नमः वञ्चाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नमो महावदन्याय कृष्णप्रेमप्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्णचैतन्य नाम्ने गौरद्विषे नमः हे कृष्ण करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकाकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जयतां सुरतो पङ्गु मम मन्दमतेर्गति मत्सर्वस्वपदम्बोजो राधा मदनमोहनो दिव्यवृन्दारण्यकल्पद्रुमद श्रीमद्रत्नागारसिंहासनस्थ श्री श्रीराधा श्रीलगोविन्ददेव प्रेष्ठानिभिः सेव्यमानो स्मरामि श्रीमद्रसरसारम्भे शिवतत्ततस्थितः कार्षण्येन स्मरैर्गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रियस्तुनः वृन्दाये तुलसीदेव्यै प्रियायै केशवस्य च कृष्णभक्तिप्रदे देवी सत्यवत्यै नमो नमः पञ्चतत्त्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्तरूपस्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद चेतो दर्पणमार्जनं भवमहादावग्निर्वापनं श्रेयकैरवचन्द्रिका वितरणं विद्यावधूजीवनम् आनन्दं बुद्धिवर्धनं प्रतिपदं पूर्णामृतास्वादनं सर्वात्मस्नपनं परं विजयते श्रीकृष्णसङ्कीर्तनं हरेर्नाम हरेर्नाम हरेर्नामेव केवलं खलु नास्त्येव 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 गतिरन्यथा हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। Dandava pranam all Vaishnavas. Page 360. Gurudev kripa karke mujhko apna lena. If you do not have this bhajan treasure trove, you may consult with Jiva Pavana Prabhu, who posts the bhajans in the comment section of the thread, along with their translations and their commentaries, if there are commentaries. I heard a very strange thing last night. There are wild dogs running around, and then there are people who have their own dogs in their homes. And the own dogs that live in the homes don't have the training for how to be out in the wild. So the people who are taking their dogs on a leash for a walk have to defend their dogs from the wild dogs. And the people were screaming and throwing stuff at the wild dogs to stop them from attacking their dogs. And I was thinking last night, what a strange kind of situation where you take an animal out of its natural habitat and then you have to become its guardian. And they were really fighting, like trying to defend their pet. But then again, we can always remember Srila Gurudev in this situation. He said that also we might be like these little dogs, and we don't know how to protect ourselves from those wild dogs out there. But as long as we're with our master, we know that our master is very powerful.
He has a big gun.
Many big guns. He has many big guns. And so as long as we are with our master, we can bark very loudly, meaning represent the truth, represent our Gurudev, represent our Guru Varga. If someone is teaching or sharing or saying anything which is against Guru, Gauranga, Radha and Krishna or Bhakti, or against the Vaishnavas, then we can be very bold and defend them. And by that we will receive so much grace, mercy, and the mood of mamata or possessiveness in the heart. This can increase rapidly. Okay, 360. Gurudev kripa karke mujhko apna lena. Gurudev kripa karke mujhko apna lena. Gurudev kripa चरणों में जा हे नाथ जगाओ तुम, सोए हुए भाग्य को। हे नाथ जगाओ तुम, हे नाथ जगाओ तुम, हे नाथ जगाओ तुम। ओ मेरी नाव भावर डोले, उसे पार लगा देना। मेरी नाव भावर डोले, उसे पार लगा देना। गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझको अपना लेना। गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझको अपना लेना। तुम सुख के सागर हो, भक्ति के सहारे हो। तुम सुख के सागर हो, भक्ति के सहारे हो। मेरे मन में समाये हो, मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो। मेरे मन में समाये हो, मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो। मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो, मुझे प्राणों से प्यारे हो। नित्यमाला जपूं तेरी, मेरे दोष भुला देना। नित्यमाला जपूं तेरी, मेरे दोष भुला देना। गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझको अपना लेना। गुरुदेव कृपा करके मुझको अपना लेना। मैं संतों का सेवक हूँ, Śrīla Gurudev ki jai, Śrīla Prabhupada ki jai, Rupānuga Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai, Śrī Guru Parampara ki jai. Sudevi has a question.
When Mahaprabhu is standing like this with Radha and Krishna, and he's not in the mood of a bhakta, why don't we put peacock feathers on him?
Do you really want to speak about this today?
Oh, tomorrow's better?
It's okay.
But he's not in the mood of a bhakta.
Right. So the question is a good question. It's a perfect question, and I'm sure it will be a very less than perfect answer.
Why? If you quote our acharyas, it'll be perfect.
So, generally, we understand that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna, but he's not in the bhav of Krishna, he's in the bhav of the bhakta or the devotee. Therefore, if we place peacock feathers on Mahaprabhu, we're disturbing his mood. We should worship Krishna according to what is favorable for him and beneficial for him. If he's trying to play a particular role and we're trying to enforce upon him that he's not that, then we can cause a disturbance. For example, if someone is playing a role in a drama, and let's say in that drama they're weeping so much, and you scream out from the audience, "It's okay, it's okay. You're actually not that person. You are, you know, who you are. You are Isha Thakurani." And you'd be like, "Shh, don't disturb. I'm playing this role. Don't add your own superimposition, which is incompatible with the mood I'm endeavoring to experience, or even what I'm trying to present to the world. Now you're going to enforce upon me, you are Krishna, you are Krishna. Yes, I know I'm Krishna, but I'm trying to taste the bhav of Srimati Radhika, so please don't disturb." If we try to superimpose something upon that rasa or that lila, which is not compatible, then it is known as rasa bhas, rasa bhas. It's incompatible overlapping of rasas. And Srila Prabhupada writes in his purports that no pure devotee likes to hear rasa bhas. So the question comes, we understand that Mahaprabhu, when he's in his lila, he is Krishna, but he's tasting Radha Bhav. But what about when he's next to them? Because in essence, he is non-different from them. He is the combined form of Radha and Krishna. He is their prem murti, the form of their love and affection. So why can't we place a peacock feather on him at that time?
Yeah.
So, from what I have understood, which is not much, I will endeavor to share. Only Krishna wears a peacock feather. In all of our shastras, we find that only Krishna is the personality of Godhead who wears a peacock feather. Because although Shachinandan Gaurahari is non-different from Krishna, Radha Bhavya Duti Suvalitam Nomi Krishna Swarupam, he is Krishna himself, tasting the bhavs of Srimati Radhika, but he's still Krishna. It'd be like putting on a different outfit. He's putting on the Radha Bhav. This is why the complexion changes as well. So, but he's still Krishna, but still, in this form, he's not just Krishna. He's Krishna covered, saturated, or dipped in the bhav of Srimati Radhika. Oh, I'm so tempted, but I'm afraid it's going to go on a public...
No, that's good. Thank you. Only Krishna wears it.
In other words, he's coated from all sides with that golden complexion, because he's coated with that Srimati Radhika's bhavs. So only Krishna wears the peacock feather, And that peacock feather, as we spoke before, has so many deep, deep meanings. How he wears it, where he wears it, what direction it is pointed, what it has on it. It is actually Krishna's, from one perspective, his mood of indebtedness toward the peacock for offering his best jewel, his beautiful peacock feather. That's one reason. But really, it's Krishna not only showing to Srimati Radhika, but showing to the entire universe that I keep Sri Radha on my head. He keeps that feather pointed toward her, in her direction, and he wears it here, and when she becomes in Man, he offers that at her feet. In other words, this most valuable treasure of mine, I'm also placing at your feet. My flute, my peacock feather, even his own head. So, was that okay? All right.
I think it would also encourage Gauranga Bhav.
Sudevi mentioned also that worshipping Gauranga as Krishna directly would encourage Gaur Nagari Bhav. Gaur Nagari is one of these Sahajya sects which our Gauriya Guru Varga, Bhaktivedānta Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, all of our Guru Varga, Krishna Das Kaviraj, our Goswamis, because after the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, so many improper moods began to arise, and some had this idea that Gaura in Navadvip is the Nagar, and I'm the girlfriend. In other words, he's like Krishna, and I'm going to do Rasa Leela with him. The transcendental Casanova. That is reserved only for Krishna. Even Ram does not do it. Krishna is Leela Purushottam. Mahaprabhu is Prem Purushottam. Although we know that he teases the girls, the young ladies, but still he doesn't have this kind of relationship to them. And whoever is promoting this idea, it is actually considered the most grotesque form of rasabas. It goes against every grain of who he is, and what he wants to experience, and therefore these conceptions are considered completely against the proper conceptions of who he is and how to serve him and worship him. So our Guru Varga, our Rupanuga Guru Varga, has flat out, heavily rejected these conceptions. Sometimes you might find it in a book like Chaitanya Mangal by Lochan Das Thakur, but our Guru Varga have acknowledged that it has become tainted over time. Some unauthorized things have been injected into it. Even Srila Bhaktivedānta Thakur searched for years to find a bona fide copy of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. Why is it that they have to do this? Who can do it? Those who have the eyes to see the truth and who have this capacity to understand all of the subtleties of tattva and rasa, means the essential foundational truths. And what is rasa? Tattva vichar and rasa vichar. They can detect what is off and what is on. And therefore they present to us what is on. Our Srila Gurudev, Srila Bhaktivedānta, Nārāyaṇa Gosvāmī Mahārāja said, there are so many different things which are told in so many different places. Even Chaitanya Charitamrita said that the Vedas and the supplementary scriptures are like a vast ocean. And within that vast ocean, there are so many dangerous creatures. Sharks and alligators and this and that. With the Vedic scriptures, you can go toward Brahma Nirvana. With the Vedic scriptures, you can go toward Kama Sutra. With the Vedic scriptures, you can go toward Tamogun, the dark tantric aspect. With the Vedic scriptures, you can go toward the heavenly planets and enjoy for thousands of years. So how do you approach them? That's why Chaitanya Charitamrita said it's like a vast ocean with so many sharks and different dangers. So our Gurudev said, what our Goswamis have extracted, Kujat koki lahang sasara sagana kirne mayurakule. Like a swan is able to separate milk, even if it's mixed with water, a swan can take the milk out. They have that special capacity. So our 6 Goswamis, They have the special capacity of being able to extract the essence of the Vedic scriptures. That essential thing which will awaken bhakti, bhav, and prem within our heart for Krishna. And they have presented that. So he said, what they have given, we can trust 100%. Now, Krishna Dasi asked a question. How can we learn about all of these peacock feather details? There is so much description of Krishna's peacock feathers. From the gopis, the way they're describing him, every beautiful glorification of Krishna. Barhapidam natavaravapu karnayor karnikaram idbarabha bhashana kanakakapisham vai jayantim chamalam. In that one, it's there. In the one where the Yagya Patnis are glorifying Krishna, they're speaking about his peacock feather. In the other one, Kasturi tilakam lalata patale vakshasthale. I can't remember even all of them. There's so many where Krishna's peacock feather is mentioned. Even in this prayer, Shyama Sundar Shikanda Shekara Smerahasa Murli Manohara. In there, and so many other places, it's speaking about Krishna's peacock feather. And many of our acharyas and Guru Varga, they have given beautiful descriptions about his peacock feather and what it means. The best way to learn deeply about the definitions of Krishna's peacock feather, all of the deep meanings, is to somehow come close to a Rasik Bhavuk Vaishnava, and under their guidance hear from them, and then while chanting remember their teachings, their instructions, and then you will begin to realize the swarup of Krishna's peacock feather. It's also a personality. It's not just a feather. Like the rope which bound his waist is the personification or the embodiment of Mother Yashoda's Vatsalya Prem for Krishna. So our Srila Gurudev had been saying that Radhika's name is in every peacock feather. And one devotee asked him, where is it? Where is it? We can't see. And he's like, right here. And it looked like he was drawing it in Sanskrit. And if you can find it, if you know how to read Devanagari script, you can find her name somehow written in there. But it's more than that. It's those who have the eyes to see. It's not just a physical writing thing, but it is the eyes to see. He was like, oh, you cannot see it. But he said it's there in every peacock feather.
Not only is it the name of Radhika, but it's like a nail mark, and it's showing all of the gopis basically that I've controlled all of you. And so when he puts it at the feet of Srimati Radhika, it's showing that none of them can control me or even pull me toward them if you are not mine, if you have not forgiven me. There's no rust, Nina, there's nothing. I'm surrendering all of that, all of my peacock bhav at your feet.
Did you all hear that? It also represents that Krishna is a peacock, the supreme peacock. What does a peacock do? Opens its feathers and dances its best dance, very, very attractive. He is the topmost dancer, the crest jewel of all dancers, Natavaranagar. And he utilizes this kind of beautiful display to attract and control all of the gopis. And wearing that peacock feather on his head is also showing that I am controlling all of you. I have captured and stolen all of your hearts. And so when he places that at the feet of Srimati Radhika, it's showing to everyone, all of them even, that if she is in Man, then I am placing all of that at her feet as well. Only when she will accept me will everything be okay. So there's so many beautiful different definitions, and if we are able to be under the guidance of any Rasik Bhavuk Vaishnava who's able to see and know all of these truths, especially according to Shastra, it should be confirmable by many Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Rupa Goswami, all the crest jewel of Rasik Vaishnavas have discussed these points as well. You may find it in some of the more Rasik literatures. Shri Vatsa mark on Krishna's chest. I don't know if Krishna in Vrindavan has the Shri Vatsa mark.
Yes, he does. He always has it.
Okay. Does it look the same as when Vishnu has it?
I believe so. I haven't seen it yet.
Shri Vatsa. Shri, the original Shri, is Srimati Radhika. She is Sarva Lakshmi Mai. Shri also means Lakshmi. So it means the consort of the Lord is always resting or remaining on the chest of the Lord. In this case, who does Krishna keep in his heart? Who is his everything? Govinda Sarvasva, Shri Radha Thakurani. Srimati Radhika is his everything, and she is on his heart. So the mark of Shri is there. There's so many different meanings as well, but I don't know much more than that. Isha Thakurani wants to know, Sudevi, about that picture of Gurudev on the beach in Fiji, halfway between Lotoka and Suva. She posted it, and she loves the photo, and she wanted to know about it, and I said you should ask Sudevi, because Sudevi knows about the interaction of that particular place. There's room for you. Always. Look, it's Sudevi.
Dandavat Pranam, dear Vaishnavas, Isha Thakurani Didi. That picture I took of Gurudev in the Fiji Islands, and we were going from one island to another. There was a big bus, and for some reason Kishori Mohan Prabhu and I didn't get on the bus somehow. So we were with Gurudev's small group, and we stopped for prasadam. And so we're on this island, there's the beach everywhere, and Srila Gurudev I was serving everyone because Vrinda Didi wasn't there. Somehow we were all separated, and I was the only female there, so I started serving everyone. And Srila Gurudev was somehow just kind of watching me do everything, and he said, "Oh, like Vrinda," and I was like, "Yeah." So then finally everyone was taking prasad, and I sat down to take, and I saw that it was like my worst nightmare for breakfast. It was a sandwich of marmalade and butter
on white bread.
On white bread.
Really, really white bread.
And then on the
orange marmalade.
Orange marmalade. And then on the side was jalebis. And I was just looking at it going, oh no, what do I do with this? How do I honor this? So I looked up and I saw Krishnadas Prabhu, and he was stuffing his sandwich with jalebis. So I thought, that's a good idea. And so I just started stuffing my sandwich like with a lot of jalebis. It was huge. And I just...
Orange marmalade, white bread, butter, and jalebis.
So I stuffed it with a lot of jalebis so that it wouldn't be bitter. I picked it up and I went like that. And as I was taking a bite, I looked up and Gurudev was just watching me, and he was laughing and laughing. And I just, with my mouth full, I'm like, what? And he said, oh, you know the art of taking and tasting. And I said, I learned it from your brahmacharis. And he started laughing. And then as soon as I was done, he was chanting by the ocean, and I took that beautiful picture of him. But it always reminds us of that mood, and he was saying, oh, you know the art of taking and tasting. So I'm always trying to instruct Kishori Mohan Prabhu. He likes to take prasadam with a spoon. And I'm like, no, you have to mix it with your hands, and you have to do this and that. I'm like, I know the art of taking and tasting. So anyway, that's that picture.
Just so you know, jalebis and marmalade just do not go well together.
But
orange marmalade.
But it was a sweet moment in time, and I thank you so much for reminding me of that and the sweetness of Gurudev. He was just bouncing and laughing. So thank you, Isha Didi.
So if you want to see the photo, go to Isha Thakurani's, one of her most recent Facebook posts. You will see that beautiful photo Srila Gurudev. In that time, it was Naveen Krishna Brahmachari, who later became known as Bhaktivedānta Mahārāja.
That was 97.
It was early on.
98.
98, something like that. I've noticed some requests for speaking very, very, very intimate Rasik subject matters, and I am choosing at this time to bow out. Please forgive me for that. Peacock dancing and all of that, I'm a little bit... We went to Barshana, and there's, a beautiful, beautiful painting that was made by someone who was blind physically, but they were able to witness beautiful pastimes of Radha and Krishna. And they had basically dressed in costumes of peacock feathers and were doing beautiful dance. So they called it the peacock dance. This is in Mor Kuti, which is just kind of on the opposite mountain from Mangar. There's Mankutir and Mor Kutir. And then you walk up from there and you go toward Shriji Mandir. We'll go again, definitely, soon. We have to go soon before it gets too hot. So, also there are some very interesting and different descriptions of Hare Krishna Mahamantra and peacocks and snakes and things like that. And our Gurudev and other Vaishnavas have heard this, and they don't want us to contemplate these things. It's whether it's real or not, I'm not qualified to venture into that territory. So please forgive me for that. Now we will call out for the mercy and grace of the Vaishnavas. One thing I wanted to share with you, because I mentioned it. We've all heard of this book, Chaitanya Mangala. Actually, originally, Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat was known as Chaitanya Mangala, but because Lochan Das Thakur had written a book which was also known as Chaitanya Mangala, then the Vaishnavas agreed to adjust the title, and they called Vrindavan Das Thakur's Chaitanya Bhagavat. So there's Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Chaitanya Bhagavat by Vrindavan Das Thakur, Chaitanya Mangala by Lochan Das Thakur. Apparently, over time, Chaitanya Mangala had become tainted, as I told you, with Sahajya philosophies. And although so much of it might be considered really good, if there's any mal within it, and we don't know where the mal or the imperfection is, then it can actually severely negatively affect us. The comparison of milk with one drop of poison from a snake, milk which has been touched by the lips of a serpent, is appropriate in this regard. Everything, 90% might be awesome, but a few different bits and pieces here and there that are off can spoil the whole thing. Because how do you know how to navigate through that? So one of our sannyasis once said to our Srila Gurudev, and I was present there, he said, Srila Gurudev, in Chaitanya Mangala, Lochan Das Thakur said, and Gurudev said, I have never heard of this book. And he said, no, Chaitanya Mangala by Lochan Das Thakur. And Gurudev said, after all of my years practicing, being under the guidance of my Gurudev, and reading and studying all Vaishnava Shastra, you would think I would have heard of this book. I have never heard of this book. He would not recognize or accept it. And so I know that so many devotees readily pick up any book from any bookshop and read it, but our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas were very, very particular. That's why our Srila Prabhupada called his books As It Is. And Mahaprabhu himself said, don't become a bookworm and read too many literatures about too many subject matters. If you do so, you will not be able to become one-pointed to Krishna. If you develop too much knowledge of too many different subject matters, especially of this material world, then the mind will be distracted. It will be multi-pointed. One will not be able to become one-pointed to Krishna. Jaldi karo.
I just want to give a quick example. Dandavat pranam again. An example of this is that I once asked Srila Gurudev about one of the Puranic stories about Srimati Radhika cursing Tulsi Devi, Tulsi or Vrinda Devi. And I asked Srila Gurudev and he said, Srimati Vrishabhanu Nandini, Srimati Radhika would never curse anyone. So, and also we were asking him in the beginning about all of the Kadashi stories. And you know, if you kill a Brahmin, if you do this, if you do that, there's all of these stories and Gurudev would not go there.
And the results are like a heavenly enjoyment for 1,000 years and then you get bhakti, that kind of thing?
His mood was that we want bhakti and we want those things that our Goswamis have come. They've taken the milk from water. All of that beautiful cream, everything that was within the heart, is within the heart of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They have collected and they have given us a drop of that, which is sufficient to drown us 1,000,000 times over. So our Gurudev and our Guruvar didn't want us to go to all of these Puranic stories, this one also about the snake and Srimati Radhika. They're not giving these things because they are for juice. They're to attract people who want some kind of wild idea. Oh, there's jealousy, there's this, there's that, there's cursing. And that is attractive to a certain kind of person. So the Shastras are showing, okay, let's bring them in through this. Some people need to come in through another venue. This is why Mahadev is accepting everyone who's coming to him. They're smoking, doing this and that. And slowly he'll try to take them and turn them toward Krishna. So our Acharyas have told us to stay very close to what is given to us by our predecessor Acharyas, and to go to some of these books and to go to some of them when they haven't actually mentioned that we should read them. Like our Srila Prabhupada would say, any serious student would do well to read the books of our Goswamis. So therefore we get some indication, we're safe here. Now let's see where we can find a bona fide representative giving this. Speaking from these Shastras, letting us know that it is safe to go there. Because on our own, like he was saying, even if one thing is wrong, it's like a mathematical equation. If one number is wrong in that huge mathematical equation, what will happen? Even if everything else after is being done completely perfect, the answer will always be off. So we have to stay very close to the feet of our Gurudev and Guruvar and try not to jump over their heads or try, I mean, have we read all of Srila Prabhupada's books, what to speak of read? Have we studied? Have we dived into them? Have we found all those jewels that are there? Then there's our Gurudev, there's Srila Gaura Govinda Mahārāja, there's so many acharyas, Srila Bhakti Vaibhav Puri Maharaj, Bhakti Pramod Puri, so much nectar is there, Srila Śrīdhar Maharaj, I mean, so much. Have we...
Our Gurudev.
I did say that. Oh. Have we actually read all of them? Have we dived deep into them under guidance? And have they been unlocked? Have we been able to actually see what is there? So in the same way we can't see Krishna, even if he stands before us, all of this Vedic literature we can't really see. We'll always be cheated because we don't have the eyes to see. Our hearts are not imbued with praying. So we have to take shelter of those who have the eyes to see. And they give us what is safe and what is real and what is really the mood that we are running toward. Otherwise, we could be lost for an eternity. Even chanting Maha Mantra without a goal, without a mood, without guidance, we can chant for millions of lifetimes and not attain our goal. So this is anugatya, to be under guidance and not jump over the heads of our acharyas. I wanted to share that because we asked Gurudev.
Yes.
Tulsi, you know, she cursed, or Srimati Radhika cursed Vrinda Devi, and Gurudev was like, never and never. And of course he knows this story. Of course he's heard it. So he said, no. He said there are certain kathas in the Puranas, like she said, which are basically, I want to use the term,
developed to give some kind of over-exaggerated, juicy gossip to attract certain kinds of persons. And there were so many different kinds of far-out stories that are given. And he said, for some of these things, it could never be like this. It would never be like this. It's given like that to attract people. Like people come to Govardhan. Why? Because they've read in Shastra, Sarva Vishva Pradata. He will grant any desire. Okay, let me do parikrama. Let me do Dandavat Parikrama. Let me do 108 in each location. So, 108 Dandavat Parikramas. Then the next one, like this. And so many, they're building their 7-story mansions out of Govardhan Shilas, and they're praying for the fulfillment of their material desires. And our Gurudev mentioned that gradually over time, although they're approaching with hearts full of material desires, then they will say, oh, this is fulfilled, this is fulfilled. Then gradually, then more and more will be fulfilled. Then they will start looking deeper into what Giriraj can give. And after some time of not really being satisfied, although the material desires are fulfilled, it won't really satisfy the soul. Then they'll start looking for that thing which can actually satisfy the soul. Praying to Giriraj for his greatest gift. What is his greatest gift? Well, Krishna Prem. Service to Radha and Krishna in the Nikunjas of Vrindavan. So they'll start to have more and more faith. So for a certain sector of population, it may be necessary to draw them in with that kind of juicy gossip. And it's not wrong or not bad. But for those who have already come to the path of Rupanuga Bhakti, we shouldn't go backward. Like there are so many different, I'm going to use the word kirtan, music groups that appeal to a certain kind of listener. Kind of like there's one group, I can't remember the name of them, but people would get into like a mosh pit and crash into one another, and it was like dark and heavy, and the lead singers were devotees, and so they appealed to a certain kind of person and brought so many people to Krishna through that medium. So Krishna has his ways of working. He moves in so many different ways, very crookedly, but somehow he has his ways of reaching out and even taking people from God knows where, from any place, and pulling them in toward him. This is the meaning of all attractive. Oh, shelter, right, yeah. Is she okay? No, because she said they just published 20 copies and distributed it of Chaitanya Mangala. And gifted to all the devotees here for tomorrow.
Anyway, let them know.
In your translations, did you find anything that felt out of line? Maybe some of the versions have been cleaned up since then. Our Guru Varga have the capacity to be able to detect and diagnose. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, they have this capacity to detect and diagnose what is on and what is off. That is why we must always be under the guidance of Vaishnavas. Jaha Bhagavata Para Vaishnavirasthana. If you want to read transcendental literature, then you must do so in the guidance of, at the feet of any Vaishnava. By their mercy, we will be able to receive that truth and understand. So, Jaha Bhagavata Para. Para means to read. Even when our Srila Gurudev would tell us to read any book like Manashiksha, Bhajan Rahasya. I remember one Kartik, he was doing Bhajan Rahasya for about 2 weeks. And then he went to Manashiksha, and in 2 or 3 days he went through Manashiksha. And he said, now that you understand the proper mood for approaching this, now when you go back to your own places, you can go into that treasure with the proper understanding and read it. So he gave us some foundation, some overview of how to approach this book, this treasure. And from that perspective, he said, now that I've given you this Now you can go and read it. So there are unlimited potentials for us to read something and misinterpret. It's just the nature of the conditioned soul. Imperfect senses, illusion, making mistakes, cheating others. And so if we're not under guidance of someone who does not have those tendencies, then we might very easily start venturing off the path. We may do the wrong thing. So like I said before, in some of those scriptures which have been tainted, there might be so much good. But 3 or 4 or 10 or 20, or we don't know, when something just feels off, it doesn't seem like this is right. Somehow there's rasa bas, or the tattva is just skewed a bit. Then you should be very, very careful. Approach any high class, meaning very deep-hearted, very sincere Vaishnava who understands all of these subtleties. Approach them, submit to them, reveal to them your quandary, and ask them for some reconciliation. It's essential. Otherwise, so many different things are coming to us and we can just become derailed so easily, really easily. I really appreciate that our Srila Gurudev taught us in terms of tattva vichar, guru tattva, and all of the essential foundational verses for guru tattva, jiva tattva, maya tattva, Krishna tattva, Radha tattva, Gaura tattva, Bhakti tattva. So many different tattvas. And when you see it from the perspective of tattva, then when you hear something that kind of is like incompatible with the tattva, you feel it strongly. It's like, whoa, it doesn't sit well inside. Something is off. For example, our Srila Prabhupada, on the disappearance day of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, was glorifying his own Gurudev, speaking about him in terms of how he was acharya even from his childhood. He was teaching by his own example. And our Srila Prabhupada told the story of how Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, when he was quite young, as Bimal Prasad, had taken a mango and eaten it. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur mildly chastised him. Oh, you should not have done this. It was bhoga. It was meant for Thakurji. You've done wrong. From that moment, that young Bimal Prasad, only 3 years old? 4? Very young. He made a vow, I will never take a ripe mango again. So Srila Prabhupada told this, and he said, every time we would offer him mango, he would fold his hands and refuse and say, no, I am an offender. Our Srila Prabhupada said every time we would offer him mangoes, he would respond like this. Much more recently, there are some who are completely refuting that story, who never met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada. They said it never happened. And I'm like, well, Srila Prabhupada was there. He said whenever we would offer it to him, he would refuse and he would respond in such a way. He told this, so who do I accept? I'm going to accept the version of Srila Prabhupada because he is directly witnessed and interact in this case. So when something comes like that, then you feel it. Wait a second, something isn't sitting right. It's not nourishing my relationship with Prabhupada. It's coming to create doubt in the words of Prabhupada. Then I'm going to back away from it. That kind of care must be there if we want to develop nishtha, if we want to develop conviction in the lotus feet of Sri Guru. There was somebody who was saying that Prabhupada did wrong by accepting the name Prabhupada, and our Gurudev very heavily defended Srila Prabhupada. he said, do you agree he's a Mahabhagavat? Publicly, in front of all of us. Do you agree he's a Mahabhagavat? And the devotee said, yes. Do you agree Mahabhagavats could never do anything wrong? He said, yes. He said, then how can you say he did wrong? And then he said, how can you be Acharya? Because he was up next for being Acharya. Gurudev said it in front of all of his disciples and told him you should apologize to all of them. And because of that, there was a rift, and Gurudev had, at an elderly age, had to separate from his own society, his own Gurudev's institution, and make his own society because of defending the honor of Srila Prabhupada. People don't know this, but that was one of the reasons. People don't know this, but we were personally present. We witnessed this whole interaction. And we saw how our Gurudev very strongly defended him. And how he felt this mamata and even told this person, you apologize to all. And he said, if you've misunderstood me, I'm sorry for that. So I just wanted to share that with you. When you hear these things that are off, when you see them and they're slightly, these things that are told, then if one thing is off and another thing is off and another thing is off, then you start going, whoa, 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 wait a second. I'm not safe there. It's not safe for me. Because I don't know what's right and what's not. If I'm just open and accepting everything, then 80% might be really awesome and 20% could throw me off the path so far that I won't even be able to recognize myself or where I am. And if we accept one after another of these things, then we won't realize that this is not my Gurudev's teaching. I'm not sitting within the instructions of my Gurudev any longer. And then we will find ourselves in a very, very dangerous situation, because Gurudev and all of our acharyas have established this fact that Guru Nishta, firm conviction in the lotus feet of Sri Guru, this is the backbone of bhakti. And without that, without a backbone, what can you do? You can't move. You cannot do anything. So our Srila Gurudev even made the point, even if any other Mahabhagavat states something, I'm quoting Gurudev, even if any other Mahabhagavat says something that is slightly different from your Guru, you must reconcile it immediately. Otherwise, it will go in like a seed of doubt. Very quickly, it will turn into a big tree, and then everything will be destroyed. So reconciliation is necessary. And if it is not possible to reconcile, then respect can be there, but there should be some distance until that reconciliation comes. Because if we just open to it, then we will lose faith in the teachings of our Gurudev. And if we lose faith in the teachings of our Gurudev, then even Krishna cannot help us. This our Gurudev has said, all Shastras have said so. So from that point, Guru Nishta is the backbone of bhakti. So, did you hear that, Isha? Sudevi said she wasn't chastising you, she didn't even see what you had said. So it wasn't anything to do with you, what Sudevi was speaking. If you felt that she hurt you, she wasn't responding to your comment. She didn't see your comment. She was just sharing her heart based on what I had shared. So if you feel that it's talking to you, then she's apologizing if it hurt your heart, but there might be something in there that also, that if there's anything good, you can accept it. And if there's anything that pinches you, please forgive us for that. You should apologize to all of them. I'm sorry to all of you if I pinched your heart. The reason I mentioned that about Chaitanya Mangala is because Sudevi was recently reading from Sadananda Swami, his Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's disciple from Germany. And he spoke on that particular subject matter, just 2 days ago she was reading it, and then it brought back that entire remembrance of that conversation. It was at the time Sri Maharaj, before he had received sannyas. Nanda Kishori Prabhu. Was it Fiji?
Yeah.
I don't remember where we were. But anyway, he was the one who was questioning Gurudev. And Gurudev just said, I've never heard of it. You would think I would have heard of this, but in all of my years, I've never heard of this. So it reiterated that point, that this is the mood of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, coming to his own disciples and then to his grand disciples. This Sarananda Swami had the same opinion as our Param Gurudev, and then our Gurudev also captured that mood from his own Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. So I felt it pertinent to share it. We can sometimes feel that something's not right, but others can be so overwhelmingly strong and vehement in their right. So best to defend or back off. One time, we felt quite right, and technically we were, because our Gurudev agreed with it, but Sudevi had me ask a question to Gurudev in South Africa, because many were going against our Gurudev. They were actually doing public anti-our Gurudev propaganda, and it was quite intense. And our local devotees were saying, no, we should try to, be peaceful and bridge everything and not step on anyone's toes. Just make everything nice and light. But our Shastras and our Gurudev and all of our own strong feelings in our heart were that, no, if someone is saying false things about our Gurudev, we should strongly defend him and establish the truth. So it was time for a morning walk, and Sudevi had me ask our Gurudev a two-part question. Part 1, what should one do if someone is spreading false rumors, false propaganda about one's Gurudev? And Gurudev said, if you have the strength to argue, to fight, then you should cut their tongues with Shastra, with Tattva Siddhant, means silence them, with strong teachings from Scripture. You should cut their tongue. If you do not have the capacity to do so, then you should cover your ears and leave that place, and with all of your clothes on, jump into any body of water, lake, river, or ocean, and pray to Krishna for forgiveness from hearing this aparad. That was part 1. Part 2. Gurudev, what would you do if someone was spreading false propaganda about your Gurudev? He said, my Gurudev. Yes, your Gurudev, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj. My Gurudev. Yes, if someone was spreading false propaganda about him. He said, he lifted his hand, I would beat them like this. So we were like, okay, we got the point. If one does not have the strength, and especially if someone is not willing to listen, then what's the use? It's only going to perpetuate aparad. If someone is not willing or open to hearing anything, then what's the use? Srila Gaur Govinda Maharaj said this. He said, if someone is willing to hear, then you can approach them very respectfully. Prabhu, I have noticed this. If you're willing to hear, then may I share this with you? With permission. If not, then what can we do? What can we do? Anyone who's extremely powerful, like Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada, or Śrīla Gurudev, those persons, they can give harsh chastisement and correction to anyone because they're above and beyond the ability to make mistakes. So they can chastise and correct. Our Gurudev chastised and correct all of the pundits in Braj. Every single one of them who were saying, Krishna was born in Mathura. And Gurudev would say to them, how can you call yourself a Brajbasi and say this? No real Brajbasi could ever say such a thing. He would tell them just like that. And by the end of giving them all of the proofs from Shastra and Bhagavatam and everything, They'd be at his feet holding their ears like, I'm sorry, I promise I will never speak like that again. I will speak what you have just shared. So he had that capacity. If we do not have that capacity, if someone is hard-headed and they're unwilling to hear or listen to anything, then what will our correcting do? It will only stir it and make more and more and more aparad. It will just turn into a, they say when it hits the fan, you know what I mean? Just goes everywhere, and it's grotesque and it gets on everyone. Our Param Gurudev said something like this about the establishment of the Acharya after Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. He said, we have made a mistake. We have stuck our hands in wet stool. If it was dry, maybe it wouldn't stink so bad, but our hands are fully coated in wet stool. And so we have to clean it up. We must do something to clean it up. So our Param Gurudev, along with our Srila Prabhupada, along with so many, Bhakti Shri Rup Siddhanti Mahārāja, so many stalwart Vaishnavas, they actually split from that other group. The Gaudiya Math split in two, and they started a separate society which was in line with the teachings of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada and without all of the wet stool at the helm. So, let me just check here. We've been speaking on some pretty intense subject matters. Yes, there may be bona fide or corrected copies. Like Isha said that Siddhanti Maharaj looked at it and didn't see anything wrong with it. So I don't know if they've cleaned it up, and I have no clue about what has been done with Chaitanya Mangala since that time. I don't know, so I cannot say. But because Sadananda Swami said that there was Gauranga Nagari Bhav, this Sahajya mood mixed into it. And this would not come from any bona fide pure devotee, but anyway, people used to copy things by hand, and they may have slowly infiltrated other unauthorized ideas into it. This happens over time. Krishna said after some time it became lost. So now again I am telling you this same imperishable science. The science is imperishable, but over time things can be twisted, misconstrued. We've seen it just after the time of our Srila Gurudev. So many twists from those whom he had given initiation to, directly contrary to what he taught us, in so many different groups. And it's quite surprising to see it like that, so soon. Can this have happened before? Could it have happened in ISKCON? Could it have happened in Gaudiya Math? Yes, it does. And that's why it is necessary for the Acharya to manifest again and again and again to re-establish. The Acharya is also Krishna manifesting in that form. He appears from time to time to re-establish the truth, the true principles of Dharma, and to annihilate or to remove the adharma. So to establish the truth and to remove the untruth. Yes?
I was just thinking that Vrindavanadas Thakur changed his Chaitanya Mangala to Chaitanya Bhagavat. And so because of Narahari Prabhu's Chaitanya Mangala, and
Isn't Lochandas Thakur?
Lochandas Thakur, I'm sorry. And so it must be that it must have, its essence is bona fide.
Mm-hmm.
Because he changed his own work and they didn't say discredit that. So it must be maybe something that was added to it later.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, so just if it's a good copy, then it should be okay.
Yes. For example, Bhagavad Gita has so many different commentaries, hundreds, thousands. It also has Mayavad commentaries, and commentaries by those who study it from an ecclesiastical or university kind of perspective. I've learned Sanskrit, now I'm going to study, now I'm going to present my commentaries to it, but they're devoid of bhakti. So what will you get in that commentary? You will get Bhagavad Gita with the commentaries. Even the translations will not be correct, although the original shlokas will be correct. If you see what the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, coming in the line of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, present, and their translations to certain verses in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, you will find that their definitions and their meanings and the ones that are coming through the Babaji line in Radhakund is exactly opposite. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, our Gurudev, all of our Guru Varga, for example, on this subject of the Swarup of the Jiva, say that it is inherent, it is already inside, it is nothing, it is not given from outside. Never and never. And Radhakund Babaji's, their conception is that we are in essence a blank slate and Guru gives you your Swarup. So that's an exact opposite conception. And so the same verse can be translated and you can have two polar opposite conceptions. So when it comes down to it, two things are necessary. One, our sincerity, and two, our tears, crying to Krishna for the truth. And according to the depth of our sincerity, Krishna will respond, and hopefully, by his mercy, we will be able to take shelter of a true Tattvadarshi Vaishnava who will be able to bring us to the truth, who will be able to reveal within our hearts the truth. Tad vidhi pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshyante te jnanam jnaninas tattvadarshinaha. They can reveal that knowledge. They will manifest that truth in our hearts. If we are sincere, if we are greedy for that. But they must be qualified, and we also must be sincere. The Vishnujan Maharaj story, that's based on a different subject matter. Sudevi, you're going to speak about that tomorrow? Mahaprabhu and his strictness with sannyas. I think we'll speak about that tomorrow. What I heard is that Vishnujan Swami did jump into the Ganga, but it wasn't for the same reasons. It was for another reason, because he became weak in his sannyas. And when Srila Prabhupada found out, he was saddened by it, but also felt that this is the appropriate prayashchita or atonement. No one ever saw or heard from him again. I did meet him. He was friendly with my father back in the day, and I was about 3 years old when my father brought me onto his bus. And he was there having a conversation with him for over an hour or something, and I was just kind of milling about, moving around, fidgeting, because what does a 3-year-old do? But I remember him from that time. I also remember Jayananda Prabhu. Okay. Okay. So, have we even gotten to the Vaishnava Bhajans yet? No. These subject matters are extremely refined and important to consider if we want to progress on the path of devotion. Because there are so many slight variations. And like Sudevi said, I was surprised. She was telling mathematical equation stuff. That's generally my territory. And when I start speaking that stuff, she's like, blah, 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 blah. But it's true. If you have a big equation I remember when I was in university, I got one number wrong on my equation, and it had like a 40-part equation, 40 different steps before the final answer, and I got one number wrong. One, about 6 in. 6 down, I got one number wrong in my rush. And because of that, after that, everything was wrong, although it all seemed to fit. And the final answer was off, and I got scored for it off. So this is very, very pertinent point. One thing that's off can fully take one away from the path. Srila Bhakti Pramod Puri Mahārāja, he said that. Just 1 degree off from your goal, and you can be cast into oblivion forever, it seems. So it's so essential to be under shelter, to be under guidance, to hold on tight. Like Gurudev told Sudevi, hold my little finger and don't let go. And she said, I won't. And he looked at her very seriously and he said, never let go. And then I said, what about me, Gurudev? And he said, oh, you have to hold her little finger. So this is how essential it is. How essential is Gurudev for us? Gurudev said, I am closer to you than the air you breathe. Shri Guru is closer to us than the air we breathe. In other words, Guru is Atma Bandhu, the best friend of the soul. The air you breathe is material. It's got to do with the body, but the soul needs that relationship. Closer to us than the air we breathe. Something to meditate upon. Kabe Shri Chaitanya More Kori Bena Doya. Although it starts with Shri Chaitanya, it's actually all about Vaishnavas, taking shelter of Vaishnavas, and what Vaishnavas do for us. We actually don't have much strength on our own, but if we hold on tightly to the Vaishnava, if we somehow melt their heart, what will they do? They will petition Krishna profusely on our behalf. And hearing their prayer, that's why we call Gurudev before we do an offering. That's why we call Gurudev before we do arti. That's why we call Gurudev before doing anything on the path of bhakti. I want to develop love and affection for Krishna. You are my transparent medium. You are my adapter, my connecting principle. So the Vaishnava petitions the Lord profusely on our behalf, and hearing their prayers, Vaishnavira Avedane, then Krishna will bestow his mercy. Krishna doyamoy, eheno pamara prati, habena sadoy. It is essential to take shelter of the Vaishnavas, of Shri Guru. Then Krishna will hear their prayers of petition, and because they are praying to Krishna, he is bound. He is bound by their love and affection, and he is also waiting to somehow serve and reciprocate with his devotee. So what do? They take their credits in the way of giving mercy to the jivas. It's our ticket out. Not just out of the material world, all the way to perfection. Hold tightly to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Vaishnavas, Sadhu Guru, as Srila Gaura Govinda Maharaj would say. If we hold tightly to their lotus feet, or their little finger, holding very tightly, they will petition the Lord. The Lord is bound to follow their request, because he wants to serve them. He wants to reciprocate. Yes, my request is, give this one your mercy. And then he is bound to do so. So how much hope is there? So much hope. If we try on our own, bypassing that medium to try to reach Krishna, it will seem like an almost impossible task. Billions and trillions and quadrillions and unlimited miles away. But Guru, Shri Guru and the pure Vaishnavas are such that they have already trapped Krishna within the prison of their heart. Chorangaraganyam purusham namami. As Bilva Mangal Thakur, he said, Vrajeva santam nabanita choram, Chorangaganyam chadukula choram, Aneka janmarjita papachoram choram gaganyam purusham namami. I will capture you in the prison of my heart and I will never let you go. So we say, oh Vaishnava Thakur, Krishna se tomar. Krishna is yours. Because Krishna is yours, you have captured him. He's always resting within your heart. Tomar hridaya sada govinda vishram. And Krishna himself says, these Vaishnavas are my own life and soul. So because they have captured him within their heart, he's theirs. And therefore, Krishna dite paro. They can give Krishna that is within their power. So instead of looking that way, bypassing the shortcut is right in front of us. Shri Guru Vaishnava. Krishna is as close as the heart of the nearest pure devotee. And if we can somehow or other melt their heart by our petition, by our seva, by our sincerity, they don't have anything else in their heart, but they will also want to reciprocate with our service, by our sincerity. What will flow from their heart? The only thing that's there. Krishna. As Srila Govinda Maharaj would say, Guru makes Krishna appear in your heart. Krishna prapti hoy jaha hoite. Guru makes Krishna appear in your heart. That's how close Krishna is. If we have somehow been fortunate to come to the lotus feet of any transcendental Gurudev who has captured Krishna in the core of their heart by their love and affection, and they have that power to give him. We just need to melt that heart by our sincerity. So, Kabe Shri Chaitanya More Kori Bena Doya. Page 75. By Srila Bhaktivedānta Thakur. Kabe Shri Chaitanya More Kori Bena Doya. Kabe Ami Pai Bovaish Nava Pada Chaya. Kabe Shri Chaitanya More Kori Bena Doya. Kabe Ami Pai Bovaish Nama Pada Chaya. Kabe Ami Chari Boy Vishaya Bhimano. Kabe Vishnu Jane Ami Kori Samano. Kabe Ami Chari Boy Vishaya Bhimano. Kabe Vishnu Jane Ami Kori Samano. Galavastra Kritanjali Vaishnavani Kate Dante Trina Kori Rara Ibo Nishkapate. Galavastra Kritanjali Vaishnavani Kate Ante Trina Kori Rara Ibo Nishkapate. Kadiya Kadiya Jana Ibo Dukha Gramo. Kaniya Kaniya Jana Ibo Dukha Gramo Sangsaro Yonalo Hoite Magibo Vishramo Shuniya Amaro Dukha Vaishnava Thakur Amalagi Krishne Ave Diveno Prachura Shuniya Amaro Dukha Vaishnava Thakur Amalagi Krishne Ave Divena Prachura Vaishnavera Avedane Krishna Doyamoya Eheno Pamaro Prati Haveno Sadoya Vaishnavero Yavedane Krishna Doyamoya Eheno Pamaro Prati Haveno Sadoya Vinodero Nivedano Vaishnava Charane Kripa Kori Sange Loho Eya Kinchane Vinodero Nivedano Vaishnava Charane Kripa Kori Sange Loho Eya Kinchane Kave Shri Chaitanya More Koribe no Doya Kave Ami Paibo Vaishnava Pada Chaya Kave Shri Chaitanya More Koribe no Doya Kave Ami Paibo Vaishnava Pada Chaya Vaishnava Thakur Jai Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Vaishnava Thakur Jaya Vaishnava Thakur Prabhu Kripa Koro More Doya Koro 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 Prabhu Hai 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 All Vaishnava Thakurs ki Jai. Okay, I won't speak long right now, but as I was singing those two lines that I was previously speaking about, I remembered something. When our Srila Gurudev brought us to Govardhan to do Annakut Mahamahotsav in 1996, we were staying in Modi Bhavan, just next to the Bhaktivedānta ashram, and Srila Gurudev had us all line up with all of those preparations on our heads. We did kirtan and we walked across the road and went to Govardhan. And there Srila Gurudev said, "You're not qualified to walk here. But I am taking responsibility for all of you and I'm bringing you here. So I am taking responsibility for you." And then as he was doing the offerings, we had placed all of these beautiful plates with so many different preparations, hundreds and hundreds, all over on Giriraj as an offering. And as he was doing the offering, chanting the mantras, at a certain point he turned around and said, "Everyone, state your names." We all started telling our own names, the names of our family members, friends, relatives, and everyone we could think of. And then he offered us as well. What was our qualification? We had no qualification to be there. He brought us there. It was his qualification, and he offered us without us even realizing that he was going to do that. We didn't know he was going to do that, but he did that anyway. So I was just seeing that in my mind's eye when I was reading how they will appeal to Krishna profusely on our behalf. And in response to their prayers, Krishna will become compassionate and show his mercy to us. So I just thought that's a nice practical example of this. And I was just seeing that. I wanted to share it with you because it was exciting. So now we're going to call for the mercy of Srila Rupa Goswami. So Sakala Vaishnava Gosai, page 46. By Śrī Radha Mohan Das. Wait, I was singing for Rupa Goswami. Please forgive me. Shuniyachi Sadhu Mukhe. That's what I meant. Page 51. Forgive me. Anjali, change. Page 51. Shuniyachi sadhu mukhe bole sarva jana Shri Rupa kripayo mile jugala charana Shuniyachi sadhu mukhe bole sarva jana Shri Rupa kripayo mile jugala charana Ha Prabhu Sanātana Gora parivaro Ha Prabhu Sanātana Gora parivaro Sabe mili vancha purno Goro hoyamaro Sabe mili vancha purno Goro hoyamaro Shri Rupero kripa jeno Yama pratihoyo Shri Rupero kripa jeno Yama pratihoyo Se padaya shrayo jat Se mahashoyo Se padaya shrayo jat Se mahashoyo Prabhu lokonato kabe songe loya jabe Prabhu lokonato kabe songe loya jabe Shri Rupero pado padume ore samarpibe Shri Rupero Pado Padme More Samarpibe Enoki Hoibe Moro Narma Sakhi Gane Anugato Narotame Koribe Shasone Enoki Hoibe Moro Narma Sakhi Gane Anugato Narotame Koribe Shasone Shuniyachi Sadhu Mukhe Bole Sarvo Jano Shuniyachi Sadhu Mukhe Bole Sarvo Jano Shri Rupa Kripayo Mile Mangalachara Shri Rupa Kripayo Mile Mangalachara Rupa Gosvāmī Prabhu Rupa Gosvāmī 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 Rupa Sanātana Rupa Sanātana Rupa Sanātana Jai Rupa Sanātana Rupa Sanātana Jai Rupa Sanātana Rupa Sanātana Jai Rupa Sanātana Prabhu hai 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 Śrīla Rupa Gosvāmī Pad ki jai Śrī Sanātana Gosvāmī Pad ki jai Śrī Sat Gosvāmī Prabhu ki jai Rupanuga Guru Varga ki jai Now we will call for the grace of Nityananda Prabhu and Sri Sachinandan Gaurahari together. Paramakaruna Pahu Dwijana Nitai Gaura Chandra. Such a beautiful bhajan. This one was very dear to the heart of our Srila Prabhupada. You know, it's weird for me when I say our Srila Prabhupada because they're both, all of them are our Srila Prabhupads. Srila Rupa Goswami is Prabhupada. When will Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada give me his mercy? Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale. Oh, Shri Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, Sanatana Goswami Prabhupada, Bhaktivedānta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, Shri A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada. We should make all of them ours. But anyhow, so we can distinguish. I understand the necessity. Sudevi said, Gurudev said we should say it for distinction. And I understand that principle because after the time of our Srila Gurudev, suddenly everyone had the name Gurudev. And everyone was quoting Srila Gurudev. And I was like, which Srila Gurudev are you quoting? Because this one and that one, and that's fine that everyone has the name Gurudev, but now we needed to distinguish between which Srila Gurudev was stating what they were stating. So I understand the confusion when someone's saying, Srila Prabhupada said, and everyone's like, which Srila Prabhupada said it? So then there had to be Srila A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So, for the purpose of distinction, my father had written Srila Gurudev a letter, which we personally delivered to him in Fiji when we were there. And in that letter, my father was glorifying Gurudev in terms of tattva, based on the tattva siddhanta of who can be called Prabhupada. According to our Śrīla Prabhupada, Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada's definition of who is qualified to be called Prabhupada, which he placed in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. So my father, in this letter of appreciation and glorification of Srila Gurudev, presented in a very siddhantic and tattvic way that by all practical purposes, according to all definitions of tattva and siddhanta, also you are qualified to be known as Prabhupada. And Srila Gurudev accepted it. He accepted it. That yes, okay. But anyhow, he accepted the offering. But he didn't say, yes, now you can call me Prabhupada. But he accepted the offering and the mood behind it. But his mood, of course, is, for him, they had all agreed to reserve that for Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, but he even would tell us we should say our Prabhupada. But in response to that, he told me, he said, your father is expert in all siddhanta, or knows all siddhanta. In other words, that what he wrote and what he sent, based on the tattva and siddhanta, makes any Shuddha Bhakta or qualified guru be able to be qualified to retain that title. If, let's say, any of Srila A.C. Bhaktivedānta Swami Prabhupada's disciples started using the title Prabhupada, I can guarantee you it would cause a huge, huge stir. And so you can understand why that could have caused a stir also in the past. But anyhow, I just wanted to share that, because every time I say our Prabhupada, but I'm thinking our Prabhupada is also Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, Srila Jiva Goswami Prabhupada, Sanatana Gosvāmī Prabhupada, all of those who are qualified for that title, they are our Prabhupads. But specifically for the distinction, then that title is there. Also in this connection, our Srila Gurudev, because his Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, gave sannyas to our Srila Prabhupada. When you receive sannyas, you don't retain the previous name. So, our Srila Gurudev, because what name did he receive? Srila Bhaktivedānta Swami Mahārāja. That was his sannyas type name. That's why our Gurudev called him Swamiji. It was out of affection. And that's what the devotees were calling him in the beginning. When he first went to America, they were calling him Swamiji. And Swami Maharaj was what they would call him, Pujapad Swami Maharaj, or Shripad Swami Maharaj. And then later on the title Prabhupada was given. But our Srila Gurudev didn't appreciate when people would put the AC. And he even told us, he said, I asked him why he put it. And he said, because it was already on all of the banking documents, on all of the official documentation and passports and this and that. So I retained it like that. But it was a technicality. Technically, one should not retain that previous name when they received sannyas. But anyhow, the name was given by his Guru Maharaj. His birth name was Abhaicharan. Then he was given the initiated name Abhaicharanaravinda Das. And in fact, we have a history that he was so knowledgeable and so learned, they wanted to give him the title Bhakti Siddhanta, because he knew all of the siddhantas of bhakti. But in order to maintain peace and balance, they gave him the equivalent name Bhaktivedānta Prabhu, and this was way before he received sannyas. He was called Bhaktivedānta Prabhu. That was the affectionate nickname, Bhaktivedānta. Well versed in all Vedanta, all Shastra related to bhakti. And then our Param Gurudev, when he was giving sannyas, he started giving these sannyas names. Bhaktivedānta. So all of his sannyas disciples had Bhaktivedānta in their name, including our Śrīla Bhaktivedānta Swami Mahārāja, our Śrīla Prabhupada. Just some little history. Okay. Page 84. Paramakuruna Pahu Dvijana Nitaya Gaura Chandra. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Parama Karuna Pahudu Jano Nitai Gaura Chandra Parama Karuna Pahudu Jano Nitai Gaura Chandra Sabayavatar Saroshiromani Sabayavatar Saroshiromani Kevolo Yananda Kanda Kevolo Yananda Kanda Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudridha Vishvasa Kori Bhajo Bhajo Bhai Chaitanya Nitai Sudridha Vishvasa Kori Vishayo Chariya Serase Mojiya Vishayo Chariya Serase Mojiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Vishayo Chariya Serase Mojiya Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Mukhe Bolo Hari Hari Dekho ore bhai Tribhuvane nai Amono doyalo data O dekho ore bhai Tribhuvane nai Amono doyalo data O Pashupati jhure Pashano vidore Pashupati jhure পাষাণ ভিতরে শুনি যারো গুণগাথা, শুনি যারো গুণগাথা। সংসারে মজিয়া রোহিণী পরিয়া সে পদে নহিল আশ। সংসারে মজিয়া রোহিণী পরিয়া সে পদে নহিল আশ। আপন করম ভুঞ্জায় সমন, আপন করম ভুঞ্জায় সমন, কহয়েন ছন্দ